In this installment, we have a NFC East battle for your Monday night slate showdown on DraftKings between the Washington Commanders going up against the undefeated Philadelphia Eagles. Let's get into it. Hey, yo! Welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Chef D, and I'm here to give you the winning ingredients for your Monday night slate showdown between the Washington Commanders and the Philadelphia Eagles. Before we deep dive into this NFC East showdown battle, please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Make sure you follow me on Instagram and Twitter at MetsNetJetsD. Don't forget about that TikTok at Chef_D91, and don't forget about the Patreon. If you want more DFS, betting, and fantasy football advice, all those links will be provided down below. The first thing we're going to get into will be the injury report for this Eagles and Commanders game. What we're looking at right now, this is going to be some injuries to the Eagles secondary here in Avonte Maddox and Josh Jobe. These are some decent, they're not significant injuries to their secondary. If it was James Bradbury or Darius Slay, then we can get really concerned about this. This is more of your third, fourth string cornerback and nickelback that are being affected. Everyone else is pretty clean and clear for that Eagles team. On the Commander side, we have linebacker David Mayo. That's going to be drastic there. J.D. McKissick is out, so that's going to lean more towards Antonio Gibson getting that third down work and that pass catching role. We'll get into him a little bit more later. And then Cole Holcomb, linebacker as well. We got a Q tag on Tyler Larson and Andrew Norwell. So 2 injuries on that O-line. That's not going to bode well for the Commanders, all right? So let's get into the juiciness of the captains. For your captains, the first guy we are going to talk about will be Jalen Hurts, all right? We have a dual threat quarterback. You always want to take advantage of your showdown slates when you got a dual threat quarterback, right? Upside is everywhere here, passing and rushing, and not just not any dual threat quarterback. We're talking about an elite top tier dual threat. We're talking about Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts, Josh Allen, Justin Fields, those type of guys. Those are the guys you want to focus in on your showdown slate. So I love him at the captain position. There is some upside to playing Jalen Hurts in the passing game as well, because the fantasy points allowed to the wide receiver position, we're talking about A.J. Brown here. It bodes well for the Philadelphia Eagles. If we're looking at Washington Commanders, fantasy points allowed to the wide receivers, 26th overall, 30th in the red zone, okay? 173 yards receiving for wide receivers and 1 touchdown a game. That bodes well for Jalen Hurts, and that bodes well for his wide receivers as well. So I like Jalen Hurts as a top-tier captain option. A.J. Brown, speaking about fantasy points allowed to wide receivers, this is the number 1 option in this offense, and we got 3 games in a row of A.J. Brown scoring a touchdown. Can it be 4? Yes, it can. And against this team in Washington, I expect him to get back in the end zone yet again. He did in week 3 when he faced Washington on 5 catches, 10 targets, 85 yards, and a TD. We saw him get in the end zone there. He's really only had that one big over 20 fantasy point game, and that was against Pittsburgh. Other than that, he's had another 20 point performance against Detroit in week 1. So it's been more in the teens. Hopefully we can get another over 20 fantasy point type of performance from A.J. Brown. We want to have him go off because we are paying such a high premium price, and he's going to be in each and every one of our lineups. We're not fading A.J. Brown in this great matchup, and we're not fading Jalen Hurts. So these are already, you got 2 locks in each and every one of your lineups, okay? Next, we're going to talk about will be Miles Sanders. Miles Sanders is going to see double-digit touches in the rushing department. The question is, will he get a couple catches here and there, and will he get in the end zone? When he gets in the end zone, he's going to pay off the salary. Excuse me. But the Washington Commanders fantasy points allowed to the running back position, they've been pretty stout so far this year. If we're going to go down, they are 17th overall, 22nd in the red zone. So that's where you want to attack them in the red zone. They've been giving up more of production. 85 yards total and only 4.1 yards a carry. So this is a team that's going to hit you in a multiple facets with the rushing attack. Not only is going to be Miles Sanders, it's going to be Boston Scott, it's going to be Kenneth Gainwell, it's going to be Jalen Hurts. So that's going to wear down the team. So Miles Sanders does have some upside. I wouldn't be surprised to see him in that third, fourth quarter range when the game is pretty far, far away. They're icing out the clock, and Miles Sanders is chipping in with some nice fantasy points at the end. All right. If we're talking about some guys on Washington for that captain spot, Taylor Heinicke does have some upside. He's another guy that's going to create no matter what, but his tendencies tend to hurt him. He takes risks, and that's where you get interceptions. All right. Despite the fact that he does have upside to score a ton of fantasy points, Taylor Heinicke is going to turn the ball over, all right? So I do have to mention him because of his upside, but the downside is, and it's going to benefit the Eagles defense, Taylor Heinicke likes to take risks. So Taylor Heinicke is someone we can mention, more of a flex play, but that's going to lead more towards the Eagles defense, who we can play. I'll speak about them right now. We can play the Eagles defense as a captain option in this slate, all right? It bodes very, very well that you got someone that's going to take the risk, and you see a team that's down a couple scores. Taylor Heinicke in situations where he's trying to make a first down, and the Eagles can pick Taylor Heinicke apart, all right? In the first matchup in week 3, and this was in Washington, they weren't even home. The Eagles defense came through with 18 fantasy points. That was a very good sight to see. 9 sacks in that game. So Eagles should get busy. Eagles defense should get busy in this game going against the Washington Commanders and a turnover-prone Taylor Heinicke, all right? If we're looking at other options on Washington, Terry McLaurin, it is a bad matchup because it's Darius Slay and or James Bradbury that's going to be covering Terry McLaurin. But he had a positive game in week 3, okay, where he had 6 catches, 9 targets, 102 yards. Didn't get in the end zone, but got you enough to pay off his salary and a little bit more. So I'm not going to be that shied away from Terry McLaurin, despite the fact this is a great matchup. I mean, this is a poor matchup for him. So definitely more of a flex play. Terry McLaurin is more of a flex play, all right? We're just going to keep it at that. All right, could he go off and get a touchdown? Yes, he could. He's an elite top tier wide receiver. It's just in a bad predicament in Washington. So Terry McLaurin is going to be more of a flex play. We're going to bump him down from that captain area. If we have anyone else in this captain spot that we can talk about for Washington, that's going to be Antonio Gibson. The one weak spot for this Eagles defense is the run stopping ability. All right, we're already on fantasy points allowed to running backs. We're going to go to the Eagles, and despite the fact that it says 18th overall and 16th in the red zone, the key component here is 5 yards a carry. All right, so 5 yards a carry, that's going to lean towards Antonio Gibson, who's more explosive running back, and that's going to lean more to Brian Robinson. Brian Robinson is going to get the majority of the carries, but in a poor game script, they're going to go away from him and they're going to lean on Antonio Gibson. This is why I like him more. He's going to see passing down work as well. He's going to get his double-digit carries as well. So you get a nice 1-2 punch here in Antonio Gibson, the more explosive back, the pass-catching back, and in a game environment where you got big underdogs here in the Washington Commanders. They're going to be in situations where they're going to need to check down the ball. Antonio Gibson is their best pass-catching running back in this offense, especially since J.D. McKissick is out probably for the rest of his career. When you get these neck injuries, it's very, very dangerous, all right? Do we have one more captain play? Yes, we do. That's going to be Devonta Smith. And he's a up and down Jekyll and Hyde fantasy option. All right, we got 2 bad performances from Devonta Smith the past 2 games against Houston and against Pittsburgh. His previous matchup against Washington, he went completely ape crazy. All right, 8 receptions, 12 targets, 169 yards, and 1 TD. I think this is a perfect spot for us to go back to the well, especially since People are getting really, really comfortable with A.J. Brown, think he's going to get a touchdown each and every week. He just scored 5 touchdowns in 3 games, all right? I'm telling you, Devonta Smith is going to be a sneaky, sneaky option in the Monday Night Showdown slate. I'm liking him as a very lower-owned captain play, all right? So let's move on to the flex ops. On to the flex ops, and the first guy we're going to talk about, we're not done with the Philadelphia Eagles offense, baby, because they still got another gem, and that guy's name is Dallas Goedert, their number 1 tight end. If we're looking at the target share split here, we got A.J. Brown at a 29.68 target share, and Devonta Smith and Dallas Goedert are splitting secondary duties here at 22% each. All right, so we got another gem here. This is an offense. Remember Doug Peterson with the Philadelphia Eagles? They threw to the tight end at a 30% clip. The same thing is going over here with him going under Nick Sirianni. They are still utilizing that tight end position. Dallas Goedert has been looking sharp as of late. He's only had that 1 dud against Dallas. Other than that, we're seeing consistent targets, 9, 6, 6, 9, and 6 in the last 5 weeks. Goddard only had 1 touchdown. That's the only thing that's really not taking him to the next level, but we could see a touchdown from him in this game going against Washington. So we're going to start out the flex ops with Dallas Goedert, all right? The next flex op we're going to go with will be Curtis Samuel. This is their gadget guy, all right? Despite the fact they have Terry McLaurin as their number 1 wide receiver, Curtis Samuel is their number 2, and they utilize him in a multiple of facets in this offense. Ron Rivera loves him some Curtis Samuel. He's finally healthy, and he has been producing. All right, we saw a controversial touchdown from him against the Minnesota Vikings last week, but if we're looking at the usage, we're seeing consistent targets here, 4, 8, 5, and 8 in the past 4 weeks. And we're seeing some carries as well. If this not working or if they're down large, they are going to get creative and use Curtis Samuel. We saw 5 carries from him against Green Bay for 26 yards. We saw 4 carries from him against the Colts for 29 yards in that game. And he also got a carry against the Minnesota Vikings as well. So consistent usage of Curtis Samuel, that's going to be super, super important. They were doing it at the beginning of the year, and I like him in this game environment where we're looking at a team that's going to be down. They're going to be forced to get creative and get the ball into their playmakers. Curtis Samuel is one of those guys. All right, let's continue to go down the list. The next option at flex we're going to go to, I will put in Brian Robinson here because he's going to see the bulk of the carries. As you can see, 13, 8, 20, 17 in the past 4 weeks. He needs to get in the end zone to pay off his salary. That's 100%, all right? So Antonio Gibson is going to provide more upside. Clearly, Brian Robinson has a very, very low floor, and he needs to get in the end zone to pay off his salary, even if he's at a flex play, all right? So Brian Robinson is a lower tier flex option that we got. Kenneth Gainwell is getting more and more work here as the number 2 option in this offense. We saw 4 carries from him against Houston, 3 receptions. That was a bright spot to see as well, despite the fact that Boston Scott is back. So Kenneth Gainwell is securing himself as the number 2 option in that running backfield there behind Miles Sanders, so I have no problem going towards him. If we're looking at defenses, I already told you I like the Eagles defense. We are not playing the Commanders defense, but we are going to play both kickers, all right? We got Jake Elliott here, and we also have Joey Sly. So let me clear out both of those so I can put these guys in here. We got Jake Elliott and Joey Sly. Now we're going to get into the high upside options at flex, okay? Anything can happen, all right? Quez Watkins is their slot wide receiver here. He's going to take a screen, and he can take it to the house, all right? So we had a decent game from him against Houston. A little more usage than we're accustomed to seeing. And he was able to take a home run type of play in week 2 against Minnesota, where he had a long of 53 yards and got in the end zone. That's what you're looking for if you want that bottom feeder flex position guy that's 5,000 and even cheaper. Quez Watkins is going to be your guy that has the potential to definitely get you in the end zone, all right? Other guys that we're going to look at, Jahan Dotson. Jahan Dotson was a favorite target for the previous quarterback. Now, we'll see how he gets acclimated without Carson Wentz, all right? So Jahan Dotson, how does he connect with Taylor Heineke? So that's going to be a key factor to see, because Jahan Dotson was very, very potent at the beginning of the season here, where we got 3 out of 4 double-digit fantasy games, and he had 4 touchdowns in his first 4 games. So those are all positive signs to see, but this is a different quarterback now. So I'm going to put Jahan Dotson in the pool. I like him as a flex play because he has some upside. They're going to need him back in this game if you want to contend with Philadelphia's very, very strong defense, all right? Other option that we can look at is Logan Thomas. He's been very poor this season. He's getting back from a little bit of an injury where he missed 4 weeks. He only saw 3 targets against Minnesota. Taylor Heineke is really not looking toward his way, so we can bump down Logan Thomas to our another lower tier flex option. And once we go past him, you got De'Ami Brown. He was getting more used from Carson Wentz because Carson Wentz wasn't afraid to throw the ball down the field, and that's where De'Ami Brown is going to excel at. So once we get past here, we got Boston Scott, we got Zach Pascal. These are guys we want to avoid. So I don't want to go past I do not want to go past Logan Thomas. Now let's key in on the guys we're going to have in each and every one of our lineups for this Monday Night Showdown slate. We're going to start off with Jalen Hurts. We're going to go to, you know what, I'm going to bump it down. I'm not going to go straight to A.J. Brown. I'm going to go to Devonta Smith. I think he bounces back after 2 poor performances. He's going to be a guy we're going to look at. On the Washington side, I love Antonio Gibson in this game script, and I also like the Eagles defense. So I'm giving you 4 positions, 4 picks for your lineups, and then you can mix and match for your other 2 in either or your captain. So thank you guys for tuning in. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Make sure you follow me on Instagram and Twitter at MetSnitchJetsD, and I'll be back with another video very soon. All right, peace out.